beef with us, and we get you out of sight. Hit the Dutch and I'm higher than a kite. I got my hand on the clutch, stick in the box. Why they can't rowdy? I'm just trying to get rich. Oh, you a bitch, I can't take you, you understand? You probably would snitch. Fucking bitch, I guess we too legit, cause I never been the type to sit back and listen to stupid shit. Hi bitches, what's good? It's Janae. I'm back with another video. In today's video, I'm gonna do something that is for the community, for the fans, for everybody like that. But real quick before I get into this, I want to say that I am now a brand ambassador with this company called Odd Collective. It's a Japanese clothing company owned by a woman, which is dope because I'm so happy that I am a brand ambassador for a company that's women owned. That's lit. Fucking I'm all for feminism shit, like women owned shit. They make really dope clothes, and I'm gonna put a little shit right up here. You get 15% off if you use my link. So definitely go down in the description and click on my link and get yourself some dope fucking clothes, and you'll be helping support me. It's a good way. I do get commissions. So yeah, if you want some dope clothes, definitely do that. And the other thing that I wanted to announce is that I have submitted my song for the Snatch This Beat challenge. It is a challenge open to all trans and gender nonconforming artists. It's done by a trans and gender nonconforming artist label called Transgenders. And it's a really dope label. I've talked with them like once before. They really do a lot of good shit for the community. They had the first ever Trans Music Awards held last year. They're based out of Brooklyn, New York. And I'll just put a little bit of information up on screen for the challenge right now. If you do want to go ahead and participate in the challenge, go to their Instagram and click the link in their bio, and that's where you'll be able to download the beat. It's the same beat on the Rise song, the one that just came out. So if you haven't heard that, go peep that. If you need some inspiration or some shit, or if you don't know what to do, definitely go and look at my song. Or honestly, if you're not going to do it, just peep my song, because I do like the song. I'm honestly just venting about like street shit, and it's pretty dope. So today's video is my coming out story, and the reason why I wanted to do this is because I have been getting a lot of messages recently of people questioning or people closeted that don't know how to come out, people that just need help with certain things. And since Trans Day of Visibility did happen not too long ago, there may be a lot of new trans people in the community. So I wanted to make a few community-oriented videos. Today is going to be my coming out story, and then the next video that I'm going to put out is going to be what I've learned transitioning about a year and a half on estrogen. I'm not quite a year and a half. I think I'm a year and 5 months or 4 months. I don't even remember at this point. But yeah, so I wanted to give back to the community, and y'all been showing me so much love, so I want to show y'all some love back. I think the best way to start is by explaining to you what my at-home life was like. And my parents were very conservative and religious. They are boomers. They come from that generation, which tends to be a lot more closed-minded. So it was not a very LGBT-friendly household. And I remember being a young child growing up, my parents telling me that being gay was a sin and gay people would go to hell and shit like that because it's a sin. And they would also tell me things that you shouldn't really be telling a child, and they enforce gender roles very strictly. So like I would do something and they'd be like, oh, like you did that like a girl, or like that, like girls do that, or some shit. And it kind of pushed me into this like hyper masculine like sort of mindset and like way of behaving when I was very young. I was very distressed as a child, and that led to me acting up a lot, which if you've heard my stories, like then you know, like I was very much so acted up a lot as a child. And I think that's something to do with my gender dysphoria, but at the time I just didn't fully understand anything, and I was just so distressed and frustrated that I didn't know how to express the way I was feeling, so that just translated to me acting out. And it certainly didn't help that I was going to these alternative schools. And if you don't know, alternative schools kind of operate like jails and prisons. Not all of them do, because some of them are more like learning based, but the ones I went to were behavioral based. So we were treated sort of like inmates, but we got to leave at the end of the day. And it is a very hyper masculine environment, very tough environment to be in. Like new kids get picked on and shit. It's very cliquey. So it's not a place where you can not be hyper masculine. And on top of that, I was hanging out in the hood and shit, which of course is another hyper masculine area. So I was constantly in these areas where I had to be like this big tough badass, and that just wasn't me. And every time I would see a woman, like, I would just get fucking, like, really dysphoric and really sad. And I just couldn't stop thinking about how badly, like, I wanted to be female and how badly, like, I hated being male. And there was a time when I was living this, like, sort of, like, double life. I was going out in the street and I was, like, selling drugs, robbing people, getting involved in all this shit. I was hanging out with gangs. I was doing all this bad stuff. And I'd come home and I would cross dress. So it was this really weird, like, sort of situation where it's like I was living these two lives and I just didn't know what was going on. I thought I was fucking sick and gross and disgusting, and I didn't fucking know why I wanted to be a woman so bad. I did not understand it for the longest time. And then most of my teenage years spent with me going back and forth between, oh, I'm trans, oh, I'm not trans, oh, I'm just a cross-dresser, or not really knowing what the fuck I am. And then I came to a conclusion at one point. I was like, I'm not trans, like, but I just wish, like, I was born female. And then someone told me, like, yeah, like, that's all of us. Like, none of us fucking want to be trans. I was like, oh. And then so I started, like, the more I started thinking about it, the more I started talking to trans people, and it just started to seem more and more like I was trans, but I was still very much so in denial because I was decently popular at my school, and, like, I had a reputation that I didn't want to lose. And I was so concerned with how people thought about me back then that it honestly caused a lot of issues. Caused me to do things that I wouldn't have done in other situations. And the crazy thing is, this whole time that I was acting hyper masculine, I was so scared that everybody would somehow find out that, like, that wasn't actually me and that I wanted to be a fucking woman. I would do the slightest feminine thing and I would, like, fucking tweak, and I would start sweating and getting really nervous. I'd look around the room thinking everybody, like, knows now. But obviously that's just paranoid. So fast forward to after school, I'm getting really frustrated. I keep wanting this gender dysphoria and the want to be a woman to just go away, but it's not going away. I go back and forth between fighting it and accepting it, fighting and accepting it, and I decided that I was just going to go to college and all this shit will just go away. In my head, that's what I was thinking. Maybe I just need to get away from my home. Maybe I just need a new environment, and then all of this will go away and I'll be fine. And that's not what happened. I went to college and I realized very quickly that I made a mistake. It was, in fact, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, I finished high school. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I sitting here still doing the same shit? I'm in a completely new place and I'm doing the same thing. I'm acting hyper masculine and I'm doing all these things I used to did before to try to, like, hide who I really was. So it was then that I made the decision to drop out and pursue a music career. However, I still wasn't ready to be honest with myself and come out and everything like that. And at the time, one of my good friends had just gotten out of jail, and so I started to deal drugs with him and have a lot of fun with him, and we did a lot of fuck shit during that time. It was a fun time, but it was also a crazy, dangerous, and, like, kind of fucked up time. He would become locked up again, and it was really fucked up because me and him were trying to save up enough money and shit to get an apartment. We were really, like, looking at apartments and doing this shit, and this was all happening when I was at there was very high turmoil with my parents. I was at the brink of being kicked out. I was telling them, like, me and my buddy were trying to get an apartment, so they were giving me time. But after that happened and they found out some more things that I was involved in, they ended up kicking me out of the house. I wasn't alone though, which was good because two of my friends that I had known before just happened to be homeless at the same time. So we ended up going back to the university that I attended, and we would sleep in the basement in the dorm room. And it was during this time, sleeping in that couch in the fucking dorm room basement of that college, that I actually came out to the first person. I was talking to this girl that I had known from school, and we had fallen out of contact, and she had added me on Snap, and we really just started chatting, and I was somewhat into her. I was attracted to her. I was possibly wanting to date her, and there's a lot that I respected about her. And when I was homeless and just sleeping in that fucking basement, I was in such a deep, dark place, and the only thing I was thinking about is I wasted all this time and I was never myself, and now I'm homeless and I don't even have a place to live. I need to tell somebody. I just needed to tell somebody, and so I ended up telling her. She was in a fucked up situation too, so we would end up getting an apartment with one of the people I was homeless with and then her. And I would actually then go on to ask her out and we would start dating, but it was not long lived. And from there, I would actually be outed to like a bunch of my friends. It kind of happened like one by one slowly, and then slowly everybody just found out. It was a really fucked up situation. The first person found out was actually my homegirl. She found out because my ex was apparently like talking about it, or no, she was sending me a text, and then my homegirl saw it, and then so she knew about it. And then my other roommate found out because for some reason my ex and my homegirl were talking about that. And we all lived under the same roof at the time. So yeah, and then two of my other friends found out when we were all just drunk as fuck. And my ex looks at me, and this bitch is like, "Oh, you have to tell them. Like you gotta tell them." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, and basically I was backed into a corner where I had to tell them. And from there, it really spread to my whole entire area. I went to fucking go drive this guy around to fucking sell drugs and shit once, and he literally looked at me. He's like, "Yo, why is everyone telling me you want to be a girl and shit?" And I was like, "What the fuck? This is fucked up." It honestly, for a while, it felt like the end of the world, but it was also kind of positive because I was so fucking afraid of this. And once people knew, like, I realized, it's really not that scary. Like, they didn't react that bad. That's also because partly at the time, they didn't take it that seriously and they didn't fully understand the whole shit. But it kind of helped me realize, okay, this isn't the scariest thing. But I still wasn't ready to publicly, like, come out. And I didn't want to do that until I got on estrogen. And I would eventually get on estrogen. And then not too long after that, I came up publicly online. I was actually really impressed with the reception of this. A lot of people were shocked and surprised. Some people were confused and they had questions, but that was okay. I just answered the questions to the best of my ability. And there was a few people that like instantly blocked me and shit. But you don't fucking worry about those people. Those people are pieces of shit. So a few people actually thought it was a joke, which is fucking insane. I can believe it though, because I was so masculine at the time. And then last but not least, the hardest one, the one that I dreaded the most, after coming out publicly, like a few months later, I've been on estrogen for a little bit. So I was realizing that I'm going to have to tell my parents at some point. And I kind of just told them, I just texted them and I said, hey, like, I'm trans. This is how I feel. I have dysphoria. Like, I felt this way for a really long time. I saw a therapist and everything, and I started taking hormones and shit. And they did not respond very well. They are still struggling with it. They haven't disowned me, though. We still have somewhat amount of contact, but our relationship is currently not the best, and they are really struggling with it. So I'm hoping that it turns around. And yeah, that's pretty much my coming out story and the events that led up to it. I hope I was able to help some of you. Maybe not, because my story is like a little different. I did kind of get fucking outed, which was crazy. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the fucking video. Peep my music. Buy some of those dope ass clothes. Peace out, bitches.